We're going to be doing this one with Alpha Force Zero.
Hi.
Going to be just reviewing this stuff. She's going to be out of frame. Unfortunately, don't have a camera set up. But yeah, that's the other voice if you hear it. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Why would you support a man that is exacerbating this issue he claims to care about so much?
Right, I was answering the question. I mean, first of all, his suggested budget cuts $1.5 trillion. I wish it should be even more. Just so
That is not true.
No, it is. It's okay.
No, it's not true. It's just not. It raises it by $4 trillion.
Charlie said he wishes it would be even more. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. Again, like he's very selective about the things that he says in different moments and in front of different crowds.
look it up. Is
$1.5 trillion would be the equivalent of cutting the entire American military budget and a half. Where is he getting... This is number essentially pulled out
again,
of,
it's $1.5
some would say, where the sun
trillion
doesn't shine.
Again, the way that we do budgeting in America in a reconciliation process is over multiple budget cycles. So
Yeah, it's over 10 years, I think, is generally what it is.
doing 3 budgets this year. I don't know how interested people will be in this.
Okay.
But it's wonky. But again, it literally has $1.5 trillion through this reconciliation process.
But for the record, the military budget is also calculated that way over a period of time.
With the largest middle class tax cut in history, I wish the cuts would be even more. Also, to say he's just doing the pandering of the ultra wealthy, he's advocating for raising taxes on the ultra wealthy. We'll see if that materializes.
That is an income tax. The ultra-wealthy generally do not take a large portion of their income from an income tax and take it instead from capital gains.
Well,
fundamentally increasing an 8% tax on Elon Musk, who takes was it like $10,000 as a salary or something stupid, will not make any material difference. This is
100% correct. Yeah, Elon Musk doesn't take a salary from anywhere, or not much of one. The president, Trump, any president, makes $400,000 a year.
That's it?
Yes. It's been the same for a long time.
Interesting.
Since I was in high school, it's been 400,000. And the reason it was high back then, and
16 years.
the reason that they cited for having it so high, quote unquote, at the time is because they wanted to make sure that the president wouldn't be tempted to take bribes. But anyway, the president and rich people generally, they don't make a lot of money. They have a lot of assets, like they own a lot of stocks, for example, and those stocks appreciate in value. So Elon Musk's net worth can go from 200 billion to 400 billion in a year, thus making $200 billion in a year.
Right.
But he didn't earn it as earned income. He earned it as capital gains. And in the United States, uniquely, we don't tax appreciating values. We can. Other countries tax appreciating values. Like if if my property tax on my house is worth $100,000 and I pay 2%, then I have to pay $2,000, right? Or is that? I think that math is correct.
Something like that.
If I build onto my house and turn it into a full-blown mansion that's worth $1.2 million, right now, the way that our system works, in capital gains, I would just have to pay the $2,000. I don't have to pay any additional taxes on anything. As long as my money is not liquid, as long as I'm not like paying it out to myself. But in other systems, if your assets appreciate in value, say from 200 billion to 400 billion, like Elon Musk, you have to pay taxes on that additional 200 billion. That's capital gains. That's what that is. And the capital gains tax right now is 15% when they pay out, not every year, but when they liquidate their stocks or their assets, or when they sell their house, for example, they have to pay 15% in taxes, not 25% like everybody else pays on their income, not 40% like the rich have to pay, but 15%. So my proposition is we raise capital gains to 60% if the asset is worth more than $1 million, and you pay it every single year. I could be convinced otherwise. Maybe that's not the best way. I would have to talk to an economist about whether that would be the correct number based on like interests and things, because the stock market works on interest and all that.
Stock market is very weird to deal with.
Yeah, I would have to think about it, and I would have to talk to an economist about it more. But that's my current tentative position. And Charlie Kirk doesn't want to change capital gains. That's what he just said. He wants to keep capital gains exactly where they are, which is not helping anything.
Income tax. The ultra-wealthy generally do not take a large portion of their income from an income tax and take it instead from capital gains.
There you go.
Fundamentally increasing an 8% tax on Elon Musk, who takes like $10,000 as a salary or something stupid, will not make any material difference. This is a straw man argument, and it is obfuscating from the fundamental issue. This is a government for and run by oligarchs.
There you go. That's exactly right.
Funny you say that. You do know the richest people in America vote Democrat almost 85%.
That is...
Who cares? I don't care. What does that have to do with anything? It's completely irrelevant. And it's probably not even true anyway, but he's going to say it. He's going to get that little wedge in, and people are going to believe it because it doesn't receive any pushback, because I have no idea if that's true, but it doesn't matter. So they're just going to gloss over it, and people are going to adopt just that much more of Charlie Kirk's worldview, just a little bit more, little bit at a time. That's how he does it.
Fundamentally not true. The
Okay,
richest...
Can I finish?
Okay.
Again, 9 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in America vote Democrat. If you earn more than $300,000 a year, you have
I'm trying not. I don't want to be that guy that's always insulting people.
But also, he's an idiot, and I'm perfectly fine being that guy.
Well, I was going to say, that guy, gal, or non-binary pal, I was going to say, hey, dumbass, that's because people live in cities, obviously. He says the wealthiest areas vote Democrat. Yes, because they're cities. He isn't this stupid. He isn't. There is absolutely no way. That's why, well, that's one of the reasons that I don't like insulting people. First of all, part of the reason that I don't like insulting people and calling them idiots is because I don't believe that he's an idiot. I think that this is an intentional, knowing thing that he's doing, knowingly deceiving people because he wants to convince others to adopt his worldview, even though he knows that it's a lie. So I think that calling him an idiot is giving him too much credit, and it's excusing his bad behavior. That's why I don't call people idiots or whatever most of the time.
Well, I'm not allowed to say any other words, so that's the best I got. Or I could say heck.
Yes, you can say heck. Or heckers.
He's
HE double hockey sticks is also acceptable.
He's a dumb hecker.
There you go, dumb hecker. That's good. I will take that. It's a new insult. Put it on a shirt and sell it.
I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
$100 each.
vote Democrat at a 75% clip. I mean, it is so overwhelmingly the Democrat Party is the party of the rich. Secondly, though, he's going out of his way to cut taxes for working people. No.
That's completely false, though. I'm sorry. I can't let that slide. It's completely false that Democrats are the party of the rich, but okay.
Party's the party of the rich. Secondly, though, he's going out of his way to cut taxes for working people. No tax on tips, no tax on overtimes, the extension of the middle-class tax relief. Again, I don't know how interesting this is for a UK audience, but...
Yeah, he didn't do that, though. I believe that he didn't... I don't think he did the no tax on tips thing, and I don't think that he did the no tax on overtime thing either.
Are there taxes on tips?
Yes. There have been taxes on tips.
Why?
Although, like, people at restaurants that receive tips, I worked at IHOP for a while there.
Right.
They usually just put the tips in their pockets and move on. They usually actually have to report the tips. At the end of the night, they're supposed to report how much they made. But when I worked there, nobody really cared. Technically, they split it with the busboys. And on occasion, I was a busboy. On occasion, I would get, a few dollars at the end of the night. But the servers are paid $2 an hour. I was paid $8 an hour. So
right.
They were the ones that needed it. And
$2 an hour.
Yeah, everyone understood that they needed it the most out of anybody. So they reported what they wanted, and the manager didn't care where I worked, and the busboys didn't. Nobody cared. Another thing to keep in mind when you're tipping is business owners are intentionally setting out to offset their costs and pay people less, pay their employees less money by, normalizing tip culture and raising the percentage.
Right.
I want them to pay their employees correctly. I don't want that, I don't want this business owner to make money off of me paying a higher bill in the form of tips. I want them to pay their employees better. That's the issue. So I have to balance that out with that concept. And as a result, I will not tip people who aren't actively providing a service.
Yes.
Like people that are, at Starbucks, they're working the register. I'm not going to tip somebody that's just working a register. They need to pay their employees better.
I know some people feel guilty about like doing that because the worker's right in front of you, but I don't know if I'm sitting at like I'll be in New York and I'll go up to a cash register and they'll just scan my item and hand it to me and they're like, "Oh, do you want to tip me?" I'm not really tipping you for anything. I don't know. I don't feel bad about something like that. I think you should always tip at a restaurant. And like my friends and I, when we've gone out to restaurants and not had enough tip money, one of us will leave, go home, grab money and come back. But I just feel like tipping someone for not doing anything is wild.
I think that tipping generally is the owner class's method of offsetting their costs and lining their pockets with money. Ultimately, the money that you're tipping is really going into the owner's pocket because the owner is paying less to have that employee on staff than they would otherwise because you're paying it. So I don't like tips. I wish that we didn't have to tip at all.
It's seen as rude
Zero.
in some countries. Sorry.
Yeah, I wish we didn't have to tip at all. Zero. But since we do have to tip because people need to survive and everything, I tip well when I do. That's the way that I operate. Ready?
Yeah.
Broadly, President Trump is doing the impossible, something I hope your government does. He is trying to cut taxes for middle-class people while also trying to balance the budget. I wish he would cut taxes even more. It's an ambitious project, and I support him completely in that endeavor.
The extent to which he's attempting to balance the budget is not necessarily true, given that the budget is currently at a higher deficit this current year, as it was at any point under Biden, or I think any other.
Also, balancing the budget is a bad thing. We don't want to balance the budget. We want to pump in money that will bring in more. Like, for example, the IRS costs money to operate, right? It costs, I don't know, just hypothetically $1 million a year or whatever, and it brings in $7 million per year. So paying the IRS to operate is not having a balanced budget. Your budget is not balanced in that case, but you're bringing in additional money into the system. That's probably not the perfect example because the IRS it's still an executive branch program, but a more accurate example is probably like Biden's CHIPS Act would build microchip manufacturing plants in the United States, and that would cost millions or billions of dollars on the budget. But over the course of 10 years, the jobs that it creates will contribute a total of hundreds of billions of dollars in tax money, tax revenue. That's directly generating revenue, though your budget is not balanced. That kind of thing is the reason why we don't need a balanced budget. We need higher taxes.
The president in history. I would also point to the fact that suggesting that Democrats overwhelmingly vote, wealthy people overwhelmingly vote Democrats is true to a point. After a certain income, they overwhelmingly vote Republican because the tax breaks, kind of business interests and all this that Republicans offer them. Given he is attempting, in your own words, to balance the budget, again, coming back to the root issue, why is he defunding the IRS, which brings in money? Why is he defunding national parks, which makes money? Why is he engaging in all of this if he is trying to balance the...
First of all, some of them...
Can I just finish my statement? Is it perhaps because when you defund the IRS, the wealthiest people, the people that fund his super PACs, people that buy his Trump coin, people that are in fact in his cabinet, generally pay a lower de facto rate of tax because the IRS can no longer fund to actually investigate and audit them?
Okay, so by defunding, again, the IRS is our tax collection agency. If you guys don't know, it's the Internal Revenue Service. I don't know what it's called here in the UK.
HMRC.
Yeah, sure. So the
favorite.
The equivalent is number two, that you're not totally wrong about one portion of this, which is that more agents do equal more revenue.
He's not totally wrong about any of it. In fact, he's not just not totally wrong, he's totally correct about all of it. But okay, whatever.
Is number two, that you're not totally wrong about one portion of this, which is that more agents do equal more revenue. You have to have a tension, though, of do you want to grow the IRS by 87,000 extra agents, which Joe Biden did? He's trying to peel that back. Do you believe in or do you know the Laffer curve? Are you familiar with it?
Oh my God, not the Laffer curve. Oh my God. If you guys are like,
I'm unaware of this.
okay, yeah, if you guys are like 17 years old and still in high school, for example, or whatever,
Like me? Well, I'm 16. Same thing.
if that's the case for you, he's talking about trickle down economics.
Oh,
And that's the Laffer curve. It's this fictitious pretend like curve on a made up chart that this guy named Art Laffer, I think was his name or something, invented to try to validate or to add legitimacy to trickle down economics, which is completely invalid. It's nonsense. It does not work that way. It never has. It's been proven to be complete nonsense over and over and over again. By just one example, Governor Brownback from Kansas implemented full trickle-down economics on a statewide level, and it completely destroyed the Kansas economy to the point that the dude was, they had to reverse it. They had no choice. They reversed the trickle-down economics policies, and he was effectively excised from the party. He was given some position as like a delegate or something somewhere, and he's never invited on Fox News anymore. He's never invited anywhere to talk to anybody about anything anymore because he made such a mockery out of trickle-down economics and the Republican ideology. I can't believe that Charlie Kirk has even had the twig and berries to bring up the Laffer curve in this situation.
This is
I can't say.
So let me just, nobody's heard of it because it's stupid. It was a stupid idea.
Do you want to grow the IRS by 87,000 extra agents, which Joe Biden did? He's trying to peel that back. Do you believe in or do you know the Laffer curve? Are you familiar with it?
I can't say.
It's a
I'm
belief
silly
that when
history
you lower
student.
taxes, you can actually increase revenues because compliance goes up and economic growth goes up. We saw this in
That's just a lie. That's not true. It's a fictitious, made-up lie.
the United States during Ronald Reagan, during a massive tax cut. It's called the Laffer curve. And so that's actually debated. Just because you cut taxes, you're going to run a deficit. But you're not totally incorrect. You are correct. And I will admit this point, that when you have less IRS agents, you are going to have less revenue. And I think that it's a good thing generally to have less IRS agents looking into the particulars of Americans. And we have a history over the last 10 years right now.
Actually, the richest Americans.
Well, not necessarily. That's the thing.
Just complete BS. This is nonsense. Guess what? The IRS is still auditing like poor or middle class Americans at the same rate. We can look at the rate of audits. It's the rich that are no longer being audited to any real degree now.
The richest Americans actually are able to hire the tax attorneys and the accountants to get through IRS issues and get to settlement. What we see in the data is it actually ends up with middle-class Americans because they do not have the same infrastructure to deal with a very intense IRS agent.
All right, I'm going to say one last thing if they're taking too much of your time.
So everything that Charlie Kirk just said is considered valid now because he didn't get any pushback on it. That's just the format. Not that I'm blaming this dude. I'm not. That's just how this works. That's why Charlie Kirk does this style, this format of debate, so that he can try to establish his absolutely absurd beliefs with nearly zero pushback.
I think it is interesting to suggest that Donald Trump is the only president that is going to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy. I've already pointed out the potential
Since
flaws,
H.W. Bush.
the potential flaws in that. I would also draw the audience's attention to the fact that Donald Trump is overwhelmingly backed by, supported by, funded by, and in fact stacked his cabinet, as I've mentioned, by billionaires. And you yourself in Turning Point USA relies relatively heavily on the ultra wealthy to give their donations.
Somewhat.
For example, foster.
Somewhat, he says. No, look, this is a really good example here of how this whole system works. You know, the Daily Wire is going bankrupt. It's because they were the top quote unquote news page on Facebook for like ever. It's because it was all, what's the word I'm looking for? It was all, oh my God, the word, it's on the tip of my tongue. It was all astroturfed. That's it. It was all faked. Billionaires paid for the Daily Wire to have like, you know, to create this massive advertising like infrastructure and get themselves to the very top of the Facebook stuff. And now that like the billionaires have backed off, the Daily Wire is falling apart. Their co-owner, Jeremy Boring, resigned, and they're going bankrupt. A lot of right-wing like organizations are not actually popular at all. They are given the air of popularity by putting a ton of money into it.
And also by getting reputation for being stupid, which causes people to talk about it more and builds up its popularity.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this insane nonsense is favored in algorithms because it's so ridiculous. People talking about this nonsense explodes. Hang on, I'm just thinking for a second here.
The only reason I know who Charlie Kirk is because he has had insane ideas and insane discussions, and they have shown up on TikTok on my For You page, or on news websites, things that I tend to read, news articles, because of how insane that these things that he says are. With this, I've seen every single one of the Cambridge speakers. I've seen at least a few clips of them speaking because of the fact that Charlie Kirk has gone against them with a crazy stance or something that he couldn't even defend after all of it was said and done.
He's really good at, Charlie Kirk that is, at he's come up with a cohesive view of society and the world that all works together really cleanly, but is complete nonsense and built on lies. And he's gotten really adept at repeating that kind of cohesive framework that in which he lives. And that's why he's such a good debater. He can go in there and he can just lie and lie and lie and lie, and people just continue to believe. And he'll gish gallop. They won't have time to address everything that he says.
Charlie Kirk's entire thing is speaking as long as he can about whatever nonsense he claims to believe, coming up with crazy ideas and crazy views of the world, and then not giving his opponents a chance to refute those crazy ideas, crazy beliefs of the world. But yeah, no, Charlie Kirk's entire thing is speaking nonsense as long as possible and then cutting off. Yeah, he'll steer any debate when he's disproven, that's all. Yeah. Cutting off whatever arguments the other person has. He's back. I have to leave. I'm sorry, guys. I know, I'm your favorite. Yeah, but they can't see me and I look amazing.
Right.
I'm in my pajamas right now, guys. Okay.
I prefer to call them jammy jams. I'm a big fan of that term. Yeah, I really like it. Jammy jams. Anyway, careful. This girl's going to steal the show. That's fine with me. Less work. Less work for me. Nah, I don't consider this part work. I consider the editing afterward and creating metadata and thumbnails. That's definitely work. But this is just me hanging out and having a good time.
I used to edit and stuff for him, and I stopped very quickly because it's just, it's so terrible.
Can be pretty tedious. I don't mind it generally. It's just sometimes there are other things that I want to be doing, like working on like an AI model or something, but
Right.
I have to do this instead, that kind of thing. So anyway. All right, well, let's continue, shall we?
Although sadly departed. I know, but
we also have.
When you were founding, you were overtly reliant on this. So I would just like to point out that inconsistency, and I thank you for your.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thanks.
Point out the inconsistency. Interesting. And nobody is paying any attention to that inconsistency because Charlie Kirk just pumped out 16 lies a minute. I'm sorry, my whole computer crashed. I don't know what happened. That has not happened to me before. It's concerning. Now everybody heard this gish gallop, and they're going to think half the stuff he said is true because it received no pushback. That's the nature of debates. I don't think that Cambridge should have platformed this, but it is what it is, Is this a teacher? Dude, I can't tell if this guy's... What is this hair? Because he turned his head and it looks like he's bald, but when he turns his head forward, it looks like it's gray. Watch. Do you see this? Look.
It's a teacher, by the way.
His head is bald, but when he turns it back, it's gray. What is this? This is like a Schrodinger's hair situation.
Oh my god.
Marvelous.
Thank you. A very, very short question. Israel versus Hamas. Good guy versus bad guy. Russia versus Ukraine. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy?
Both are bad, one is worse.
Which way round?
Russia and Ukraine, both are bad, one is worse. Interesting. Charlie Kirk, of course, is going to say, I'm assuming, Russia is good, or Russia is bad, but Ukraine is worse, with absolutely no reason to believe that.
I've already seen this clip specifically.
I have not.
Russia is worse than Ukraine.
Okay, so
Oh, Russia's worse than Ukraine. I didn't actually expect that. Okay.
haven't we pursued that?
What do you mean?
Well, it seems to me that in the whole of the current US proposition, that Ukraine is being the bad guy.
In what way? We funded Ukraine upwards to $200 billion.
Absolutely.
We
But
just signed a mineral deal with Ukraine, not Russia.
Yeah, and it was Trump taking advantage of Ukraine, like forcing, basically holding them hostage.
We just signed a mineral deal with Ukraine, not Russia.
yeah, but you are expecting Ukraine to give up 20% of its territory to someone who invaded it.
Well, is Crimea part of Russia or Ukraine?
It's part of Ukraine, but Russia annexed it in 2014, of course. I don't know what point he's trying to get to here.
Ukraine.
That's where we don't agree.
What?
He just wants Ukraine to give up their territory.
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
I don't understand. I can understand that people say, well, they're only asking for this thing, so just give it up. But it's not theirs. It's Ukraine's. It's not Russia's item. It's not Russia's. What's up?
You're at a good level normally. This is where my level is when I talk. Start talking and make sure that it's just barely into the yellow or the green.
It's not Russia's territory. It's Ukraine's. And asking someone to give up something that is their item, or their territory or their whatever, is crazy. Charlie Kirk wouldn't like it if we told him to give up his house because, well, they're only asking for a house. Like, it's not that bad. So we shouldn't expect someone to give up part of their land just to stop a war.
Or a more apt comparison, Charlie Kirk wouldn't accept it if somebody, like China, for example, or whoever, expected Charlie Kirk to give up Virginia.
Right.
Or Florida. That's the problem, really. Charlie Kirk is applying a standard that he does not apply anywhere else in any area of his life and would not be applied, in this situation, if not for the fact that he had ideological motivations. That's it.
Real Pumpkin J says Russia asking for Alaska. That's a good comparison.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a really good comparison, actually.
I'm afraid that's part of international treaty. That's not up for grabs.
Well, it's interesting. I mean,
Let's wait a minute. One more time.
well, is Crimea part of Russia or Ukraine?
Ukraine.
That's where we don't agree.
Well, I'm afraid that's part of international treaty. That's not up for grabs.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, hold on. I mean,
That's funny. I like that. The guy had a little bit of a rough start, but that was pretty good. Even people in the back on the right side clapping. That's good.
even Zelensky has said he's willing to give up Ukraine.
No.
He said what? You mean he said he'd give up Crimea? I don't think he said that. But either way, so it's not like Russia's to take. It's part of Ukraine.
Who's America's?
This section right here is one of my favorite debates. I have two favorites in this Cambridge debate. This one's really funny because Kirk just he just can't. I don't know. Something about it.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
Yeah.
Even Zelensky has said he's willing to give up Ukraine.
No. Who's America signed the agreement that gave Ukraine Crimea
Right.
when
And
the Soviet Union ended?
Right. It was done. First of all, it never should have been done. It was largely ceremonial. But however, it
It's completely irrelevant, of course.
was
Largely
annexed under
ceremonial.
Obama. Yes, and it was a mistake, and it should be given back to Russia as a sign of good gesture to end this conflict. But who's currently controlling Crimea? Where was the Russian Navy headquartered in World War II? Where was the end of World War II? This is very
not doubting that. I'm not doubting.
It's completely irrelevant. Where was Russia's capital in 1930 whatever? It was in Kyiv, I think, right? Or at some point.
Also, he said as a sign of good gesture to end this conflict. Why is it on Ukraine, the people who are being invaded, the people who are being attacked, to show a good gesture and end the conflict? It's on Russia to not be terrible.
Yeah, it seems to me Russia should give Ukraine part of their territory as a sign of goodwill to end the conflict. It's the other way around.
Right.
And Robert Adset says Ukraine's independence was largely ceremonial, right?
That. I'm just saying that if we're being logical on what has happened, that you are now arguing against that flow. And I don't understand it. Because actually, why is Ukraine the bad guy?
No, I said they're bad. They're not the bad guy.
Yeah, well, you said they were both bad, but one was more bad.
Correct,
than the other.
yes.
So why is Ukraine bad?
Well, there's a lot wrong with Ukraine. First of all, they're not a democracy.
Yes, they are. This is a piece of propaganda that the right's been repeating ad nauseum. Their constitution says they cannot hold elections during wartime, when they're being invaded specifically.
Which I generally think is good.
Yeah, a lot of countries have that rule. The United States is unique in that they don't have that rule, but we did it anyway during World War II, not switching a horse midstream, quote unquote, as FDR said. This is not unusual. This is like when Zelensky came to the White House wearing his war uniform, his fatigues or whatever. That's normal. That's common. That's what people do during war. Churchill did the exact same thing, showed up to the White House in fatigues or an air raid outfit or something, I think. The point is that it is a democracy. It's a flawed democracy, and the United States has been working for like decades, Obama and Biden particularly, to root out that corruption, and they've been doing a really good job of it. But it is a democracy, and it's an even stronger democracy today than it was under Obama or Trump, because they're so unified against Russia now, working together to fight. Like, even the old president that was notoriously corrupt is fighting. He's in fatigues on the front line, fighting, leading troops against Russia right now. Like, he's talking to the news and everything. They're all one now. There is no more corruption like there was previously.
Zelensky refuses to hold an election.
Well, no, he can't.
No, their constitution refuses to allow an election, is actually what it is, which is fine.
First of all, they're not a democracy. Zelensky refuses to hold an election.
Well, no, he can't hold an election.
Oh, wait, did Churchill hold an election during the war?
Because under his constitution...
Hold on, Lincoln held election during the war. That's not true. He can call an election. He can call a snap election. He's full dictator of the country.
This is such complete BS. It's vile how this dude is spreading this nonsense, this disgusting, vile nonsense like this.
Charlie Kirk doesn't understand constitutions or doesn't care what a constitution is, because this guy is actively telling him, no, it's under their constitution. They literally cannot do anything. And Charlie Kirk says, well, but that's not true because it's not in our constitution.
He's just repeating Russian propaganda.
Right.
That's what he's doing. He's repeating Russian propaganda.
Because he knows that the people of Ukraine would kick him out immediately because he's deeply unpopular. In fact, if
He really isn't. He's actually extremely popular. He's like a hero in Ukraine, because anybody else would have left Ukraine in the middle of all that fighting. Like, the United States gave him an evac option, and he said, no, I'm not leaving Ukraine. China, covering for Russia, China state media and Russian state media both claimed Zelensky left. I remember all of this years ago. I don't know how much you guys were paying attention at the time, but I remember when this was happening. Zelensky, after they started claiming that he left and he went to the United States, Zelensky pulled out his phone and at the presidential palace or whatever the hell it is, started filming in front of the window and said, nope, didn't go anywhere. I'm still here and we're still fighting. And Putin sent like multiple sets of special ops through Kyiv in the middle of the night for consecutive nights at that point. And they all tried to take him out and they all failed. That turned Zelensky into a folk hero. He is incredibly beloved in Ukraine. So I don't want to hear it. This is just a lie. He's just making shit up right now.
because he knows that the people of Ukraine would kick him out immediately because he's deeply unpopular. In fact, if he wanted to show a statement to the world, he would call an election and win by 80% and say, see, I'm super popular. So that's
He is super popular.
He also literally cannot.
Yeah, I mean, they can take polls, and they have polls. Like, you know, we can find out how popular he is by just doing polls.
But he can't call an election.
Right.
That's, yeah, because of the Constitution. And
Yeah.
Kirk is insisting here that, one, he's insisting that their Constitution is the same as ours. That's what he was just saying. And two, he's insisting that they break their Constitution.
Yeah, because he just doesn't value constitutional expectations, I guess, is the problem. But anyway, yeah, Kirk is just a complete scumbag, and he knows what he's saying and doing here.
number one. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with a person being propped up as a government we're sending $200 billion to that refuses even to face his voters.
We're not sending $200 billion to Ukraine. We didn't send anywhere near that amount of money to Ukraine, not even half of that. To my understanding, I think we sent $80 billion in aid total, and half of that aid was in our old supplies. Like every 5 years or so, the U.S. military has to replace all of the guns and the tanks and the helmets and the blankets and the MREs. Those things expire after 5 years or something. We have to replace all of our old supplies. And that means either selling it to somebody or throwing it out. A lot of our old stuff is thrown out. Because, first of all, who's fighting a war in the world right now? And on top of that, who's fighting a war that we want to fund? Because that's what we're doing, ultimately, is we're funding a war if we're giving them our supplies, right? So those old supplies that we needed to get rid of anyway, we're sending those to Ukraine and rebuilding our own military in the process. All the while embarrassing a historical adversary. Not someone that I say is an adversary, someone that Putin says is an adversary. He doesn't like us. And we don't have to waste a single American life to do it. It is the best use of American money that we could possibly spend on, like, foreign affairs. It couldn't possibly be spent better. But, you know, Charlie Kirk is like a lying weasel. So, again, like, I don't like insulting people, but here we are, you know.
Charlie Kirk doesn't care about literally anything unless it can put him or the people he is surrounded with in positions of power. If it can benefit him specifically in some way, then it is important, and it is an important issue, and we need to fight for it. This includes Trump being in power or whoever else he's friends or associated with. If someone
women staying in the home.
If someone he can control or someone who can make him look good comes into a good position, he's perfectly fine with that. Whatever positions work best for him.
Yeah, it's absolute hypocrisy all the way down, and once you see what he's doing, you can't unsee it.
This is also why he switches up his ideas so often, because the second something doesn't work for him, the second something doesn't go the way he expects it to, it's terrible and shouldn't even be considered. With taxes, like we were saying earlier, in the moment, it worked for him to say, well, Trump is actually raising taxes on the rich, because it made the other side look terrible. But when someone actually brings it up as a question, then it suddenly looks great for him to say, no, we shouldn't tax the rich because this, and this. And he's able to make the other side, make the people who are against him seem crazy and stupid for wanting to raise taxes on rich people.
Two things. A, the food's here.
Yay!
Outside. And B, I actually have something here that will clear it up. Ban TikTok, says Charlie Kirk, on January 24th, 2023. Ban TikTok.
From Earth, apparently.
And then 2020, July 31st, 2020, Trump just announced on Air Force One that he will be banning the evil CCP compromised app TikTok. America can't continue to allow our citizens to be surveilled by Xi Jinping and his terroristic cronies. I have long advocated for this. And then 2025, the day before Trump was inaugurated. TikTok is officially banned for all users in America. Biden had a chance to keep it alive, but he wanted this to happen to overshadow Trump's inauguration. President Trump could bring it back online and then broker a historical deal. Let's see what he does Monday.
Also,
He does. Hang on. The point is that
Right.
Charlie Kirk is very selective about the things that he says, the things he believes, and the things that he does. And he has no principles, ultimately. He is only promoting ideas that are beneficial to him in that moment. That's it.
TikTok, the TikTok ban was started by Trump. I was a kid when it started. I'm still a kid, but I was, I would have been, I would have been 11, almost 12. So, little tiny baby. But I was already very politically aware of things and focusing on what was happening in the world. So I can remember that very, very well when he was threatening to ban TikTok, when he was putting that act in order or whatever.
Yeah, they're just weasels. They're just lying.
And then when it was actually banned, early 2025, earlier this year, Trump started campaigning using that, saying, well, TikTok's going to be banned, and I know you all care so much about TikTok, and if you vote for me, if I win, if I'm here, whenever I get inaugurated, I'm going to save you guys from this terrible stuff that Biden is doing, this terrible control that Biden has over you. This was all specifically the only reason he unbanned TikTok. The only reason he did this was to raise his popularity, and it worked. I have seen so many people talking about how Trump saved us and Trump's amazing. And I'm a Trump supporter now because this, and this. Because he saved TikTok, he stopped whatever. That was his entire goal, and I have seen so many people falling for it. And I have had friends who have started praising him. They don't like him, but they praised him for unbanning TikTok. And I had to sit down with them and have hour-long conversations about why that was his entire goal.
He created the problem, and then he solved it, and everybody praised it for him.
That's narcissistic. I'm getting it. I just wanted to say that. That's a narcissistic activity. I don't know what it's called.
Behavior?
Yeah, behavior. Narcissistic behavior.
All right, I'm going to continue this, and and Alpha Force Zero are going to go grab the food. Step back here.
Popular. So that's number one. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with a person being propped up as a government we're sending $200 billion to that refuses even to face his voters.
Okay, I can't agree with you factually on that at all.
Okay.
I mean, constitutionally, Ukraine is not able to hold an election because it's under military law at the moment, and that's just a matter of fact.
Again, he can, as a prime minister or president, he can do whatever he wants.
He can't.
Are you kidding me right now? As a prime minister or president, he can do whatever he wants. I absolutely love how oblivious this dude is. I absolutely love how willing Charlie Kirk is to just throw out law, throw out the importance of the Constitution, or anything at all. He just doesn't even care. He's like, well, a president is basically a god, so, it's just insane.
Charlie Kirk and other people who are associated or who support Trump generally believe that presidents shouldn't have any rules against them.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Do whatever he wants.
He can't.
Okay, we're going to just go back and
an executive order and change their constitution.
Okay.
Neither can the American president either. So hopefully there's
Yeah, but Charlie Kirk doesn't understand that. He thinks that they're gods. He thinks that they can do whatever they want. They're dictators. That is his conceptualization of people, of political leaders.
He could even do a ceremonial election to see where he actually stands with the
I
people.
think we call those opinion polls.
Yes, and
We have them. We have opinion polls from Ukraine.
they're very negative.
Firmly ahead in the opinion.
Again, but you would agree that a person that holds on to power without the election of the sovereign is pretty questionable.
No, not in those circumstances.
He's just trying to twist this around to be something that it's not. And he knows that.
Okay, then we disagree.
No, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But give me another reason why you.
They are the most corrupt country in Europe that never even met the most remote standards of joining NATO. Do not know where a lot of this money is going.
I don't disagree.
Very corrupt. And that's why NATO didn't allow them in originally. That's why they weren't even up for NATO membership. They haven't been so far. They have not been allowed to join NATO because they're too corrupt. There was never a risk of them joining NATO because of the corruption, and Obama and Biden have been working for decades to try to root out that corruption. Ukraine has been corrupt in the past, and they need to work on that, but they're much less corrupt than they have been in the recent past. And honestly, I'm thinking maybe they're less corrupt than the United States is now.
That there is a problem with corruption, but the most corrupt country in Europe, are you sure about that?
I'd have to double or triple think about that, but they're very corrupt.
Okay, so that's a little bit doubtful. It's not absolute.
I mean, well,
would you corruption around? I mean, let's face it, we are talking about comparison with some of the states you're doing business with in the Gulf.
Oh, of course, but we're not giving them money, they're giving us money. That's a difference.
Okay, I don't understand how that's different. Like, we're doing business dealings and we're giving them money and supplies to embarrass and push back an imperialistic adversarial country that hates us, that wants to see us fail miserably. And we're not wasting and we're not wasting a single American life doing it. Couldn't possibly be a better use of funds.
That's right. Saudi Arabia.
So it's fine. No.
Well, hold on a second.
It's morally acceptable to take money from corrupt people.
Well, hold on. First of all, as far as morally acceptable, you do what's best.
This also loops back to what I was saying a minute ago. It's perfectly fine if it benefits him. He doesn't care as long as it benefits him, but it's an issue when it benefits someone else.
And it's complete nonsense. This whole thing is complete nonsense the way he's framing it. It's all lies.
Country. And so, for example, we were allied with Russia during the Second World War, and I'm glad we were. And I would ask you,
don't forget,
how much money is too much money to send to Ukraine? We're at $200 billion right now.
No, we're not. We are not at $200 billion sent to Ukraine. That might be the total aid sent by everybody, including Europe. I'm not sure. I'll find out. Okay, here we go. This is more accurate. U.S. has sent over $128 billion in aid to Ukraine since 2022. Military aid has been $70 billion since Russia's full-scale invasion. $20 billion was loaned to Ukraine. The U.S. also allocated funds for humanitarian assistance, including food and healthcare and refugee support. So the total amount that we loaned Russia, $20 billion. Most of the other stuff was either us replenishing our own supplies, giving general humanitarian aid like we do to any suffering country, and general economic support. So there you go. That's just a lie. It was not $200 billion.
I don't think you have to send any more money to Ukraine.
We agree.
I think you have to agree to support them as a free country and perhaps sell them weapons, like you're very happy to sell weapons to less free countries. And I think Europe will pick up the slack, as we ought to. And I don't disagree with some of the comments about Europe not looking after its own security. I just don't get this approach, which was supposedly to end the war quickly, which now seems to be elongating it, and in doing so, throwing up a smokescreen of very variable facts, if they are facts at all, about how things occurred, which actually isn't helping things.
For the record, there was an America First party in the United States in the 1940s. And they used to hold big rallies. One particular rally famously was at Madison Square Garden, and they had a gigantic swastika there because the America First Party was the Nazi party of the United States. And they had to be careful about how much support they gave to Germany at the time because there were laws about, supporting enemy states and things, and it wasn't really fully determined, like, if they were going to join the war or whatever other thing. But their whole goal was to destroy the will of the American people to go to war at all. They said, if we can just not go to war with Germany, they are most likely to win and take over Europe. So the whole point behind it was to discourage confrontation with the United States. Then Pearl Harbor happened, and it was like 9/11. It was a really, really big deal at the time. And, the will completely flipped in the U.S., and there was no way of staying out of the war after Pearl Harbor. But anyway, the point is that is the exact strategy that Charlie Kirk is using right now. He is encouraging people to back away from Ukraine and be isolationist and say they're too corrupt, we shouldn't have anything to do with them. Because if he does that and we really do back away, they're going to lose. Or they have a worse chance of winning, at least.
If people can't see that Putin is stalling,
I agree with you. I think he might be stalling.
And therefore, and I think even your president has acknowledged the fact that he thinks he might be stalling.
That's correct. So we don't have a disagreement there.
No, we don't. No,
Wait, what was it he said?
I agree with you. I think he might be stalling.
And therefore,
He might be what?
Stolen? I think it's interesting that Charlie Kirk is agreeing with literally anything being said here, though.
she actually isn't helping things. And if people can't see that Putin is stalling,
That Putin stole them? That he stole what? Did I miss something? Let me step back a little more.
there are facts at all about how things occurred, which actually isn't helping things. And if people can't see that Putin is stalling,
Stalling.
I agree with you. I think
He's
he might be
stalling.
stalling.
and therefore,
Okay, that makes more sense.
and I think even your president has acknowledged the fact that he thinks he might be stalling.
That's correct. So we don't have a disagreement there.
No, we don't. No,
We just have a disagreement about the efficacy of tactics, and we don't know. And I'm willing.
That's a complete lie. Of course, we know that if they have more aid, military aid, financial aid, whatever, Russia has a lower chance of winning, obviously.
to say we could be wrong.
No. Oh well.
Of course, you could be wrong in life. I mean,
No, I mean we could all be wrong, but actually bringing that war to an end consistently actually isn't going very well. And I would just suggest to you that whatever tactics have been used are perhaps not the best, and they are certainly inconsistent with what's going on in the Middle East and how America has been treating parties in the Middle East. But I've had enough of your time.
fair. No, that's a fair contention.
Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Very much indeed.
Thank you.
Dude seems like he's a popular professor.
And the final question that we've got time for today is from Sammy MacDonald from St John's College.
I really like this one. Also, St. John's.
Oh. Yeah, St. John's in the UK, I suppose. St. John's was the school my wife went to, the law school my wife went to.
Just that this section right here is my favorite section. I think it's the most interesting. Just to me.
Good evening, Mr. Kirk. You've obviously devoted a lot of your life to electing, keeping in power Donald Trump, and you did so partly because you said Trump would put Americans first and take them out of foreign conflicts. Should we see how
Dude, I love this guy's hair so much.
that is going at the moment? Currently, Trump has just accepted a $400 million debt from Qatar, which we're assured is perfectly above board, billions in arms,
It's so funny. He does that a lot. He says something and he's like, but we're sure that it's perfectly fine.
are going to Saudi Arabia, which they're using to bomb and starve Yemeni children. Not sure how that's in the interest of the United States, but it might be in the interest of the $5.5 billion deal his failed sons are receiving. At the same time,
Dude, I love it. That's great.
this great president of peace has greenlit mass killings not just in Yemen, but in Gaza, where he greenlit an invasion called Operation Gideon's Chariot with the express aim of wiping out the Gazan population. You promised to put America first. Haven't you and your ilk sold America out?
No.
Well, I'm glad you have great intellectual substance and can answer. Because it's all the culture wars for you, isn't it? The second someone actually tells you what you're doing, which is bread.
Can you
and
calm down a
service.
little bit? Like, just a little.
Are you serious right now? This is what Charlie Kirk resorts to.
I see a lot of TV shows with like really sassy characters and someone will say something super crazy and then your mic is messed up apparently.
My mic? Oh, it's muted. Dude, I love this guy. This is really funny. Seriously.
I see a ton of like sassy characters in TV shows and Charlie Kirk just sounded like one of them. Can you calm down a little bit? Can you calm down? Like, he wasn't doing anything, dude. He just gave you points, and you can't refute them, so you say no and get upset when he calls you out on not being able to refute his points.
He's absolutely terrible. I cannot stand this dude.
Pounding the table, you're all over the place. No. You want me to go piece by piece, or would you like me to talk slower?
He's such a douchebag.
I think you can.
Number one, Donald Trump is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Joe Biden.
cut him off.
He did it on purpose. He waited for him to respond and then cut him off on purpose. Such a douchebag.
And gave them
That's
armaments.
going well, isn't it?
It's
going well.
Can you not interrupt me?
well.
I allowed you to talk uninterrupted.
He literally just interrupted him. My mic is good. No, it's good. Yeah, my mic's fine.
Famous for not interrupting.
I haven't
Famous
interrupted
or
a
not.
single person here today. Can I speak uninterrupted, actually? Okay. He is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. I believe we will see an end to that war. Number two, he's actually
This is such a joke. I think he knows better. I think Charlie Kirk is a lying sack of shit, and he knows better.
talking to Iran and discouraging Israel to strike the interior of Iran, and has stopped many other international countries to do the same. Number three, can you give him credit for ending the Indian-Pakistan war?
Both of them said he didn't do that.
Well, hold on a second.
No, he didn't do it. They're still at odds with each other. He had nothing to do with that.
Let's go back.
No, that's important.
Russia, Ukraine.
Hold on, that's important.
Can I speak now?
Yes, but the Indian-Pakistan thing, you got to go deeper
Oh,
than
so
that.
he can't speak then, is what you're saying.
Can I speak now? Yeah, except I'm gonna talk anyways. Also, I think that no one, or like very few people, like Charlie Kirk, like, I'm blanking on literally everyone, like Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump, whatever other speakers there are, I don't know. I don't think majority of them believe what they're saying. I think that they believe what they're saying to the extent that they believe it's giving them power. I think there are like one or two maybe who actually believe it that have gotten to this point. But anyone who's at this point understands that everything that they're saying is stupid and a lie.
I'm curious about Mike Lindell. Part of me believes that maybe he actually does think that all the stuff he's saying is true. It's so hard to know.
I haven't seen enough on Mike Lindell to really know.
He is a nutter butter of epic proportions, as I always say.
We could watch him on our next stream.
Yeah, maybe we will.
Let's go in order. Is a peace summit where the main person in question, Russia, doesn't show up, is that a success, Mr. Kirk?
I'm not even sure.
A success?
Well, again, these are
Oh, did he not realize that happened?
ongoing negotiations, and it's a lot better than when your prime minister, Boris
He's redirecting, pointing the finger somewhere else because he doesn't want it pointed at him.
Also, an ongoing negotiation. Yeah, it can be an ongoing negotiation, but someone not showing up is not good. You can't say, well, it doesn't matter because these negotiations are still happening. Like, yeah, okay, but imagine me not showing. Imagine if Charlie Kirk had 3 days of debating and someone that he was supposed to debate with, he was supposed to talk to, didn't show up for 1 or 2 of those days. Like, that's not good. You can't do something like that.